when did you know you were successful? I know many people don't enjoy the food there.
Why is it like this?
What is going on here?
Hello, welcome to Chew on This, a food talk show with Malaysia's top culinary talent, exploring the many influences our palate has on our personality through food, drink, and banter. I'm Teoh, and I'll be your host into this world of good eats and gastronomy. On today's special episode, we're taking a break from our usual studio to record at the charming Madam Lee Nyonya Private Dining in Palm Garden Hotel, Putrajaya. This huge Nyonya restaurant specializes in homemade and fusion Peranakan comfort foods fit for the whole family, complete with a themed baba bar for that ideal nightcap. But more on that later, as I'm really eager to introduce my two guests on today's show, Darren Teoh and Nabilah. These two have been doing incredible things in the past few years that I notice are unified by a common theme, contributing to the advancement of our global culinary standing. As I have two high achievers with me on this fine day, I thought it'd be great for us to gain some insight as to what it's like to rise to the top of your field and how success can affect us on a personal level. My first guest is Darren Teoh, the chef patron of Dewakan. Darren and his team at Dewakan have made history last year, becoming the first two Michelin-starred restaurant in Malaysia through hard work and dedication to their craft at the highest levels. He also plays an active role contributing to the growth of culinary talent and the collective industry as the founder and director of Kita Food Festival. Many accomplishments under your hat, Darren. Would you please share a few words on how the journey has been like for you as Dewakan celebrates its 10th anniversary in 2024?
Just a small correction. I'm the co-founder. I founded it with both Lisa Tyler and Adrian Yap. What was the question again?
How was your journey like for you now that Dewakan is celebrating?
Long and arduous.
Long and arduous. Any specific highlights you could share with us? You know, such a momentous occasion.
Well, it's not yet momentous. It'll be momentous next year in March. But if you had to imagine getting up from a nightmare every day, that's probably what I've been through for the past 9 years. Well, it's been a good nightmare, I guess, if there are any sort. A lot of people ask if, there is this sort of like epiphanious moment. I can't tell you there is. It's a job. It's a craft. It's something that, takes a lot of pulling people together and moving in the same direction, and really that's just what it is. It isn't as much of a eureka moment as people make it out to be. Like everybody who does well in their job, whether they're recognized or not, that's what it really is about. Just getting up and doing your job well and doing better than you did yesterday or last week or last year.
Thanks for sharing. My second guest is Nabilah, well known for teaching her viewers how to make beloved foods enjoyed in Malaysia. She started her career on TV back in 2007, often promoting Malaysia's rich culinary diversity to the world. She's been named as ASEAN's most influential chef and is an avid traveler, often traveling to broaden her culinary horizons from renowned chefs in the world of gastronomy. Anis recently released the first season of a travel show to a part of Australia that I hold dear to my heart, called A Journey Through Melbourne, Victoria. I'm sure my intro doesn't do your long list of accomplishments justice, Anis. Perhaps you can fill us in on what's been new with you.
So lately, since COVID, my career sort of shifted. Prior to COVID, it was in a year, I'll do about 2 to 3 shows all over the world. So I've worked with pretty much all of the networks, TV station that is related to food all across Asia. So since COVID, it was like, what do I do now? Before this, I have like a set of crew. I'm there working on recipes, developing recipes, doing what I love basically, to just doing everything on my own. That was exciting. It was a bit worrying at the beginning because I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do now? I'm just going to be at home, do nothing. What is my source of income? Because I'm a freelance. And then I started learning how to started transitioning to become a content creator. Okay, I really don't I'm like, every time people say you're a content creator, I'm like, ugh. But reality is that is what I'm doing now. I'm sharing my recipes. I'm still a chef, but I'm sharing my recipes online.
That's really odd because I cringe when someone calls me chef.
Oh, really?
I don't
But
like
it's your
it.
profession.
But you know,
No,
it's true.
well, you see, I mean, the word chef means boss. That's what it is, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Like when people address me like Chef Anis, I feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, just Anis. Or when people introduce me like celebrity chef, oh my God, that is
I think that's a lot worse.
the worst. I'm like, please don't. Just like, just Anis,
Yes.
Nabilah is fine.
Celebrity chef has
some people think that I'm sort of like discrediting myself.
Right.
But it's not it. Like, can you imagine anyone, like an actor or anything? I'm like, hi, I'm a celebrity. That's weird. So,
yeah.
hi, I'm a celebrity chef. I'm like, no, I'm not discrediting myself. I just don't want to sound like a douche. But anyways, so the whole transition, I feel like I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Basically, give sort of like the best content for my followers and for my fans who have not seen me on TV for a really long time. And I shared something with Tien, behind the scene just now, like some of the recipes. Might not be something that I cook all the time or I love eating, but people like those things. So that's now still transitioning.
Nice. Well, I enjoyed watching your show on YouTube, and
Thank
it
you.
really took me back to my time as a university
Thank
student
you.
there. I was curious, when you were spending your time in Melbourne, did you have a chance to see how the Malaysian food scene is thriving over there? Because when I left, it was kind of booming. There was a lot of...
Yeah. Malaysian and Indonesian.
Right.
Actually, yeah. Well, I didn't really. I think I went to one restaurant, if I'm not mistaken. It's called Aru. I quite like that. It has some sort of like Malaysian and Indonesian influence. Executed really, really well. I think there's a growing market for Asian food in general over there. I mean, like Vietnamese cuisine has
Appetite is
been
pretty
there
strong.
for a really long time. But I think for Malaysia and Indonesian, it's still growing, and there's a growing market there. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. It's been a while since I've been back. Okay, so one more question before we begin. I'd like to know how you guys actually got to know each other and what's going on.
I think we did that online interview thing.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
What online interview thing?
Yeah, it was a UITM one.
Oh,
Yeah. It was
UITM had a panel during the
COVID.
Yeah, during COVID, and it was three of us. And I can't remember what the topic was, but I think we were talking about Malaysian food in general, I
Yeah.
suppose. And one of us reached out to each other
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
and then we had a conversation, a phone conversation. It was a very good phone conversation. Then
I think it was a few years ago. I obviously know of Darren, of course, admire him and his team's work, but just try to maintain cool lah. When during the
Maintain
whole
cool.
conversation, I'm like, okay, do not be starstruck. Do not sound starstruck. Just, sound smart. And then I got like a question. What was it that he asked me? How do you maintain your looks? How do you look pretty on camera? And I was like, how dare you ask me? And Darren sort of like politely sort of saved
Did
me.
you say,
and
what did you
gave me
say?
like a cool question. I
Well,
don't remember what it
bravo.
was. But do you remember that happening? And you're like,
vaguely.
yeah, and Darren was like, because Darren was answering all these questions about his restaurants and
That's true, yeah.
being a chef and everything, and then I got like, so honest,
quite
how
ditzy
do you
one.
look? How do you look pretty all the time on camera?
gosh.
People want to know, and they had like what 700 people
Yeah.
on the session listening to us, and I was just like,
gosh.
what? And Darren kind of like swoop in and
Okay.
just
Well, no
like,
worries.
and I felt like, oh, thank you so much. You're like such a hero, and yeah,
Okay.
that's how it started.
Thanks for sharing. I mean, I'll don't worry. I'll flip the question today. I'll ask Darren how he manages to stay pretty on camera. But, okay. Anyway, back to today's theme. I want to find out what happens when we achieve success and how it affects us on various levels. I am sure others looking up to you too as inspiration would like to know how your many successes have impacted you in relations to personal growth, professional aspirations, and even how the success you've accomplished has impacted our collective food culture. So I'll just jump straight into it. My first question is, when you first started your career, what was your definition of success? What was the goalpost for you guys?
When I started, it was like every show, it felt like a little like success for me because I didn't know what I was doing, honestly. I studied culinary. I was working as a commie in a hotel for like a year and a half. And I loved it so much because I had nothing to worry about. I go to work, I chop up some onions, do some stuff and learn so much and then go back home. I don't carry the stress home. It was just go to work, go back home. And I can do like 14 hours, 15 hours, no problem.
Really?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I love cooking. Cooking's my passion. I started cooking at 9 or 10, So it was like, it did not feel like work. It just felt like a hobby. And then when I got my first TV show, it was completely different because all of a sudden I had to go for like vocal training. I had to go for like presentation training. Hi, anda bersama saya, Anis Nabilah. It's like
That's really good, by the way. That's really
it's just like a transition, and it's not something that I'm used to. And then that's just the surface of it. And then behind the scene, you have so many people just telling you that, okay, to make this work or to have another season, you have to be this way, that way, dress this way, look this way. And it was just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? So after the first show, I thought, that was it. That's it. I'm just going to go and find a job in a restaurant or something. And then the second show came and I'm like, okay, maybe this is something. And then the third one came. But, it felt like little achievements at that point of time, but also like learning a lot. Like I was telling you about my second show where I got to go to every state in Malaysia, stay in a kampong and then learn how to cook from the kampong people. And that was such an amazing experience. But of course, getting that amazing experience, but also dealing with like fans or viewers and producers and stuff who constantly tell me, you need to be like this or you need to be like that or whatever. So like there's struggles, but I tell myself, as long as I keep getting jobs, I keep getting more shows, that means I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
So
thanks for sharing. I actually have a follow-up question, but let's hear from Darren first.
I think maybe mine's a little bit different. I've never really viewed a lot of what people consider success as success myself. I think there are different times in different periods in life where your success range kind of changes as well. For me, when I first started and when I was working in a restaurant, for me it was a success that I was not fired on a daily basis.
On a daily basis?
Yeah, it's just as long as because it was a fairly high stress level place, and I hardly had like 1 year to my belt when I was in that place. The people around me were very, very, very high driven individuals, and so you kind of become ultra competitive, and you couple that with my already competitive nature. Just getting through the day was already quite a difficult thing personally. But having said that, that also did kind of mold perseverance, and it molded tenacity that not many people have had the opportunity to experience. So I guess success for me when I first started was really just to be able to do my job well, and it was like that for a very long time.
What about now, guys? Is your success? I mean, I'm sure your definition of success has changed over the years, and it's probably something different now. Is this something you've thought about? You are more experienced and more veterans of the industry right now.
We will never feel like we've done enough. Like for me, myself, like I don't ever feel like I've done enough. There's always like, what else can you do? What else do you want? And it's not about the money you make. It's more of like that personal achievement that you want. Obviously, like I look at Darren and I'm like, oh my God, Darren is successful. And I feel like I'm way behind. I'm like, okay, what are you doing? You're like a content creator, but it's not. How do you say it? Like it's not right to be comparing yourself with other people, and you have to just enjoy the journey. So it's not so much like I can't tell you if I feel like I'm successful now or if I'm going to be successful in 10 years, because for me it's just a journey and I'm just constantly learning. You think, like a lot of people think that I have 17 years of experience, like doing camera stuff, cooking on camera, and I'm like, possibly people think that I'm successful and I've done enough, I'm experienced, but I'm actually still just learning. I'm still learning a lot. I'm learning every single day. So to me, it's more of like state of mind, I would say. Like you are just like, I'm grateful to be where I am, to have the opportunity for everything, meeting the people I meet, and that's that.
How about you, Darren? How has your definition of success changed over time?
I do think it's important. I just don't think it's as important as, and what that success is shouldn't be sort of like defined by what society impresses on you. We've in the past 20, 25, 30 years have gone through what I would like to call the cult of the chef, and we just cook food, man. And we do our jobs well. We do things well, but the reality is that it's another job, And there is a particular amount of success that I've experienced through the restaurant. Definitely, we've earned it together with the people who have worked hard at it, all the stakeholders, and that includes farmers, it includes foragers, it includes the people who work at the restaurant. The people who invested in the restaurant. And so all of us have had a hand in making that successful. But I would not consider myself a role model unless I had done or I am doing something that I hold myself to a moral compass, like if you want to use it that way. And I think like if I had done this, if I had done it through integrity and people have seen that journey and people have seen how it was done and they admire that process, I think that would be a greater success than the actual feat of achieving whatever accolade that came. Yeah. Because accolades come and they go.
Right.
People will not remember. Did anybody remember in 2019 whether Dewakan was on the 50 best or not? No, they don't remember. Do they remember what number? Lagi, they don't remember. Why should they? Because it was fleeting. It was lalang. It come today, it's gone tomorrow. But the impression that you have on people through leadership, through relationship, through compassion, these things impact people. And that might not have been my perception of what success was maybe say 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but it is now at this point.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to put it. Like it's not just the accolades.
Yeah.
And actually, this really ties in neatly to my next question. I
planned it that way.
So I wanted to ask.
I'm good, huh?
What? Yeah, you were very good. Psychic is a psychic. So what was the moment you knew that all the hard work you've put in and investing in your professional and personal growth was kind of paying off? What was it like, that moment for you? Was it through awards? Was it through positive public reception, or your business growing, or what was it like for you guys?
Again, I think like you're looking at success and you're looking at this as milestone points, right? And I don't feel like they're necessarily that. Some of the biggest success that I still remember today is being able to fillet a fish, right, with the cleanest set of bones left on.
Wow.
And to do that regularly. Those were hallmarks for me. Being able to manage a station well. Those were hallmarks for me. Being able to do something that I set my heart out to do and accomplish that. That was important for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And then along the way, someone pat you on the back and say, hey, good job. Okay, great, that's a bonus. Makes you feel kind of good. But you can, those words will come and then they kind of like get forgotten by the person who's spoken it to you and by the person who receives it. But the thing that you have worked to attain and the skill set that you have attained through that process is far greater an asset to you than, working for someone's approval.
Yeah.
Of course.
And that for me is successful. So if I remember, we'll be in the restaurant, and on some down days, or not down days, like they were never really down days, but like friendly competition. It's never really friendly. Would be some tasks in the kitchen were centralized.
Okay.
And so we'd all have to get together. So whether it was cleaning razor clams when they come in, or scallops when they come in. So these were like, 20, 30 kilos. You had to process them all very fast. And so you need the whole kitchen has to come in together and to do it. There was another one which was, just doing turned vegetables. And the precision that was required on those turned vegetables was very, very high. And chef would say, okay, who can do faster than me? And that's perfect, right? And this guy was like, he's like a robot, like, it's like salt, and then he's just there, and everyone looks, and you mix all of it up together, and it still look kind of like the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
And my first, it looked like rambutan seed.
Tiny.
Yeah. So I mean, if you don't know what a turned carrot
like
is,
that.
if you don't know what a turned carrot is, it's not supposed to look like rambutan seed. All right. Supposed to look like this beautiful shape. Of course, all of that got rejected and used in like stocks and purees and stuff like that because it's not worthy to be put on a plate. But I got better, and when I got better, I got faster. And when I got faster, that's when you say, okay, if I'm doing it as fast as my senior, or if I'm doing it as fast as chef, I know that I've come to that level. And it took a while to get to the point where I was as good as chef. That for me, that was a success that I recognized. And that's happened throughout my career. And with different things. Not just the cooking, but being able to understand the market better, or being able to figure out a pricing strategy, or to figure out what our positioning is going to be like, to reimagine a restaurant and build it. So that those were different like points, but I don't think that any of them were epiphanous lah. I don't think they were bad.
But they were important to you, and
Yeah.
that your measurements of success, it's very personal to yourself. And you're right. I don't know the level of successes that you just mentioned, and now you shared me. I'm like, wow, okay, it's very different, because the success for me would be quite different as a writer, for example. Maybe I want to publish a book, or it's very different from someone who may not be a writer who's asking me what success might be.
Well, I think it matters from person to person as well. Like it really depends on the character trait. I think it really depends on someone's, not only the character trait, but where that person is in life. There's someone here who's 10, 15 years my senior, and that person is coming from a completely different perspective. It could be someone who's been through a different set of challenges. Someone like Anis, for example, whom people have got a stereotype on what you should be or what you shouldn't be like, and they and try to enforce that on you, and that doesn't necessarily bode well for your own growth, right? But that person has got this idea that in order for someone to look successful or be successful, they have to look this way or they have to act this way.
Exactly. Like for me, it's not the awards or the accolades. Like, sometimes, like I appreciate it. Of course, it's an acknowledgement for what I've done for many years. But also sometimes I kind of feel like the imposter syndrome. Like, is it really? Like, what? This is the title? What? Thank you. But really, have I done enough? And sometimes I feel like, no, I haven't done enough. I need to do this, that, the other. But throughout my entire career, I have been able to do things that I feel like have made a bit of a difference. When I started, my mom said, Anis, don't overthink it. You can be successful or you might not be successful, but what's important is that you make a difference in the world. never understood it for many years. I'm like, what is my mom on about? Making a difference in the world. How do I make a difference in the world, you know? And slowly, as my career progressed, you know, I've been able to, like, my name has some weight. And because of that, I'm able to partner up and work with like organizations that I love and I believe in. And one of them is like the Lost Food Project. I love them because, you know, they rescue surplus food and then they redistribute it to those in need.
That's great.
And it's crazy, like food waste is insane, you know.
Malaysia especially.
Malaysia.
It's probably a whole different episode.
Yeah, you know, in Selangor, like we waste about 200 tons of food a day, and 4 tons is still good. And that's what they did. So, you know, if I'm not who I am, I would not be able to just like, hey, let's partner up or, you know, share the word, like what, to my 20 followers? No, you know what I mean? So being able to have like my name to carry some sort of weight, I am also able to help these organizations that I believe in. And, you know, they are able to help more people. So I think that is like the many years of working. I feel like that's probably one of positive things that I'm able to do. And that makes me feel like, okay, you know, this is success doing this.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, using your successes for good, you know, like for positive change. I think, you know, with success and having the public eye on you or a certain limelight on you, there must be some positives to having your work and your success celebrated and being in the limelight, like you just mentioned, using, you know, helping. Are there any more that you can think of? It's a positive influence on yourself or in your professional career, or
another thing that I feel like I'm happy about that I'm able to do is to help, like, you know, the younger generations, people who are interested in doing what I do, whether they're content creators or they're just like, you know, somebody who wants to start learning culinary because they have interest in cooking. I'm able to give that sort of like a positive influence on them. I'm very, like, when people reach out to me, I'll talk to them when they say, you know, Ines, I want to be a chef and stuff. I'll talk to them. I'm not like, you know, I'm just going to ignore this message. Because I feel like when I started, I didn't really have a lot of support. It was very, very competitive. I mean, in my line of work, at least, I've been shunned many times. I still am at the moment. But I don't focus on that. I'm like, okay, you know what? I want to be that person who is able to help or give support to those who want to try out, because you don't know. When I was in culinary school, I think I had maybe like 15 people in my class. Out of the 15 people, only 3 people end up being a chef. One of them is me. Or doing culinary stuff, because the rest like ended up working in banks and stuff like that.
Non-related.
Yeah, non-related. And I felt like, oh my God, because I love it so much. It's a passion of mine to cook. And I felt sad. I'm like, why didn't they continue? Like, you know, is there going to be any sort of growth? So to see that growth now, okay, I mean, like the restaurant scene, it's amazing. It's thriving now, right? And to see even what I do, like the amount of content creators that comes from Malaysia.
Oh, yeah.
Is, you know, and although maybe I did not contribute to any of that, you know, but just seeing the growth, I think it's a great thing. And that makes me happy. And I hope that I can continue doing so, like supporting all these people who need support at the very beginning. So, yeah, so now I sort of like have this little community where I check in on all of them.
It's nice.
And say, you know, reach out to me at any time if you need help or whatever. And it's not, I don't think it's anything, it's not selfish. I don't think I'm not doing this for myself. I'm just doing this because I feel like you never know who might need help. You never know if that's going to turn into something positive, right? Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. I mean, there definitely is some positives to having success and certain kind of fame on you. Darren, what are your positives? I'm curious to hear.
Yeah, I've never really thought about it that way. I thought it was just because of my dashing good looks.
Well, I mean, of course that too.
Yes.
Hey, a quick word from today's episode sponsor. Brought to you by Madam Lee Nyonya Private Dining here at the Palm Garden Hotel. Madam Lee specializes in infusing innovative touches into signature homemade Nyonya recipes, creating bold flavored dishes suited for the modern diner's taste buds. Discover the delights of one of Southeast Asia's best cuisines, presented in a huge inviting setting that blends traditional decor with modern influences. Indulge in iconic dishes the likes of Kapitan Ayam, but be sure to order signature specialities such as the Nyonya Nasi Ulam, which is best enjoyed with the Lemak Nanas Udang. Prawns cooked in a spicy coconut milk gravy, spices, belacan with slices of pineapple, and the meal outside at the restaurant's Baba Bar. Just the night spot for cocktail enthusiasts looking to have their Nyonya desserts spiked. Hit the link in the captions and the bio to find out more. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, I think maybe it's a little bit difficult for me to separate it, because a lot of our growth as an industry and a lot of growth personally as well as for the restaurant kind of like grew in tandem. And so every time Dewakan did well, so did the country's industry, and every time I did well, then the restaurant did well. But like when I say I did well, I say my own personal growth. So maybe I never really saw it as one leading to the other. But maybe echoing a little bit like what Anis was saying is that I've been able to use the strength of the restaurant and my reputation to do things like Kita, for example.
Yeah.
And that's really just been about building community and connecting different strata of the industry. And it doesn't have to be just about restaurants. There are different avenues of people who cook on media, people who bring food together. I think there's this huge division between I'm a chef and you're not a chef, or I cook on the line and I cook on TV, and I do R&D and or I do consultation, and none of these divisions are necessary at all. And I think that what we want to do with Kita is to just kind of bring that together, and in many ways my singular function besides the vision of it was just really to be this sort of rallying point, I suppose, where people say, okay, you know what, if Darren's going to anchor into it, then maybe there might be some sort of credibility to it, and that just kind of like draws people. So that's like my small little part in the festival. Of course, there are like all of these other parts, the business mechanism, the content, and all of that. That's handled by various people within that organization. And although I have a small hand in some of it, it has helped that there is some sort of a rallying point, a point of reference, at least, and also that the point of reference includes that it's not very distant from what we do at Dewakan itself, or it's not very distant from my own character. This is the kind of person that I am, therefore it makes sense that Kita kind of like ends up looking like this.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean that's very similar. Your two positives are very similar, but I'm
also,
sure
maybe we get free food sometimes.
Well, I mean, you can make the free food yourself, and you guys are super talented.
Yeah, sometimes. Actually, you know what? I just thought of it. Just now you said something like, when did you know you were successful?
Yeah.
I live in Paramount, or actually I used to live in Paramount. Just opposite my home, there's a corner restaurant called Long Fong. They're very famous for their roast duck. I've been going there since I was 7 or 8. I'll run across from my house, tapao, bring it back home and eat. The guy who chops that duck hasn't said one word to me in about 30 years.
Wow.
After my 2 stars, he did. And I was like, there was a recognition of mastery, and
No man of
so
few
I
words.
accepted it. We have since made some small talk. I think because of that. It's either because of the 2 stars, or it was because I was on one of ASEAN's shows many, many years ago.
I see.
So that, I think, is the paradigm for success. So if you're thinking about being successful, if your roast duck guy can recognize you,
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
When your favorite local hawker restaurant you've been going to since you were a kid says, "Hey, wow, I saw you," then yeah, you made it. Okay, thanks for sharing, Darren. Okay, so my follow-up question to that is, there are positives for sure, but I'm sure there's also negatives. There's downsides. It's a balance. There's always. So my question to you guys is, what are some of the more negative aspects? Is it stress and pressure that comes with certain expectations now that you are recognized as an achiever? Is it, like you said, being stereotyped into a certain person or a type of role? Any words of wisdom that you can share on what it looks like on the other side of the rainbow for people who are aspiring to kind of reach the level of success you guys have?
The stress and the pressure is only something you put on yourself. In fact, the stress and pressure that you put on yourself should be a little bit more higher than the stress and pressure someone gives you as an accolade. Like, why? You'd only be living... Look, I mean, things like accolades are supposed to reflect you. It's not you reflect the accolade, So when you achieve something, that's a reflection of what you have done. It's not about what you are doing to achieve it.
Right.
So if you put enough of the right kind of pressure on yourself to achieve the things that you think are important, these accolades and what people say about you, good or bad, will have relevance. It does, but it doesn't consume you. And this is very important. And we live in a society where people drive towards personalities, and then they exalt personalities, and just as easily as you are idolized or exalted, you are also removed from that. And if you build yourself and your character, or if you build your belief system on that, you're going to find yourself in very shallow water, and there's no growth there. What's important is for you to build a belief set, whatever belief set that is, those values that are important to you, and you develop a belief set in yourself, right? And pursue what is good, and pursue what is worthwhile. And then the rest of these things will show themselves to be relevant or irrelevant to you very quickly. You begin to recognize these things.
Yeah.
You begin to know whether, okay, look, this is something that I feel I should invest myself in or not. This is what I should invest my emotions in or not. If I had to listen to everybody who didn't like the food that they had at Dewakan, it's depressing, because I know many people don't enjoy the food there. Yeah, they don't. But there are many who do.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's great. But it's also great that many don't, because then you know that you're doing something interesting.
Yeah.
Because anybody can make a good burger.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Darren, what I'm hearing is that you kind of have to listen to your own inner voice, kind of find things that are important to you without letting external things kind of overwhelm that voice.
Don't mistake that for being stubborn. There is a difference, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But how do you? What advice would you give for people who are, young chefs who are like looking up to these accolades as a measurement of success for them? It's a real thing. I've spoken to young chefs, and they're like very focused on it. I mean, what tip would you have to like not let them cloud their judgment or their path or their journey?
Yeah, but the thing is that they're on a journey, man, and they gotta experience it. And I can say something like this now, and it plants a seed, and it's not going to have an effect for the next 15 to 20 years. They got to grow.
Right.
And you cannot allow them to, you can't stifle them. All these, sort of accolades and things like this also there is a good to it. It drives you.
Yeah.
It makes you become better. It also then sets the scene for disappointment. Right? And what's wrong with disappointment? Disappointment is great because it teaches you stuff. It shapes your thought process. For good or for bad, that's really not the point.
Yeah.
The thing is that it does that. I think it's far greater a wrongdoing to rob someone of the opportunity to grow than it is to just say like, okay, look, this is what it is. Do what you need to do. And so that's as much as I can say. Like I say, like, okay, look, this is what it is. If you don't have a belief set, if you don't have a value set, And if you don't have confidence in yourself or develop that confidence in yourself, this is the direction you will end up in. Okay? You want to jalan that direction, that's really up to you. And if you stay in that direction, that's also fine. Right? Because I'm not here to tell you how to live your life.
Right.
You go live it. We're forced by society to think that there is a right and a wrong.
Yeah.
Is there really? You know? There's so many things that if you look at it, there's no real right or wrong. There's moral subjectivity, and I agree with that. There's moral objectivity, I also agree with that. But when it comes to life choices, in the greater span and in the greater length of things, there is always room for reparation, there's always room for correction, there's always room, and this is what we call growth.
Yeah.
So if younger cooks are listening to me now and they say, what is this guy talking about? You know, there is no context for them now.
Yeah.
Right.
But maybe in 5 or 10 years, it might be different.
I feel like it doesn't just apply to like chefs or cooks. It's like in general.
just
In
like
general,
right?
in general,
Yeah.
Where were we? We were talking about positive, negative, and then yes, give me a second. We're talking about the dark side aspects. I mean, I'm sure there are some. I don't know what they are because I'm not in the position. But perhaps it could be, just people recognizing you on the street, or people sending you personal messages saying, "I want to be a chef too."
Those kind of messages I'm okay with. I guess it's really, if you're in the public sphere. You are game for everything.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're just going to be out there lah. But there is only so much you can allow it to have an impact on you.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, I'm lesser so, her more, because
Right.
that's where your career is at right now.
Yeah. I think it's so normal for people to say that it's part of the job, right? You're in the industry. It's part of the job, I mean, I've been told that when I was 21 years old, when I started my career. It's part of the job. Back then, there was no social media. People used to write into the network to say that they don't like me.
Oh.
She's not Malay enough. She's not married, therefore she doesn't have children, therefore she lacks the maternal instinct to teach all the makcik to cook.
Oh.
Right, it's like
Very specific.
crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
She's a woman. It's harder to sell women in this line because, you look at like the people who came before me, Chef Wan, Chef Ismail, all of that, they're all men. And, initially, at the beginning of my career, I struggled with it, obviously, because these are not things that I can change. But then, over some time, I realized that I don't need to focus on these things unless it's like constructive criticism.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, if someone were to point out, Anis, that's not how you make sambal belacan or something, and I'm like, okay, teach me how to make sambal belacan, But other than that, things that are not, I just treat it as noises, and I try my best. Sometimes I do talk back, because I do not want to encourage these behaviors. Because it can go, it's like, okay, someone say, I get called stupid all the time.
Oh, this
I'll just block them. I don't even bother, getting into a conversation because only stupid people will call other people stupid, right? But things like, if they're rude and I feel like I can still reason with them, I will say it, but not because of anything, not because I want to win or not because I want to prove myself right. It is more because I don't want to encourage this kind of behavior, because it is so normal that people think that, you're on TV or you're a public figure or whatever, you should get used to these criticism. You should get used to these abuse. And I'm like, why? Why do we normalize these things? We should not normalize these things. It's finding that balance between allowing it to happen by just ignoring it completely and saying what is, to me, necessary to not encourage this kind of behavior. So, I mean, sometimes I'll say it. Sometimes if it's not worth my time, I'll just block them.
I think perhaps that's the quickest solution.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting to note that your stance from when you started and now has sort of like matured, right? Like it's gone through an evolution, and you've just kind of like decided what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, and being able to verbalize that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because like a lot of our conversation today has been about success, and success is really just the end point, whereas the process is far more important and it's far greater
the journey.
Then because then if you go through that sort of like process, if you go through the process, then the definition for success changes for you over time as well.
Yeah.
What you think was successful in the beginning, what you think is successful now, which is I think what you were trying to drive at in the beginning, goes through this evolution and sometimes revolution, which then changes who you are. Or the other way around, that you change your personality and you change your approach to life, and that changes also what you consider successful.
Yeah.
So, as your definition of success changes is with personal growth and with age and with experience, do you think there will ever be an apex for you guys where you reach the top level of your professional career and you think, okay, I'm satisfied, I'm done? Or do you think that will never exist and you just keep growing and growing, or you don't want it to stop? It's a tough question.
It is a tough question.
I think apex for success is a very, I don't want to use this word, but I think it's a bit of a Neanderthal way to look at it. I think it's very primalistic that, kill the mammoth.
I wasn't getting to that.
I think like this assumption that we have accomplished something and that is it.
Yeah.
I think that's narcissistic. I think that points towards yourself. Okay, I've done it. There's nothing else for me to conquer. I'm done. I feel like there's always something to do.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not cooking, but I have, like, for me, at some point, if we ever do happen to move away from this restaurant, I would consider other things. I'll consider knife making. I'll consider restaurant design. I'll consider making, Teoh fan or something like this. But there's always something that you can accomplish.
Yeah.
Maybe the other way to look at it is not to look at it as one apex, but what if everything was an apex? Like if you set your heart to do something and you reach the pinnacle of that one thing, and then you move on to something that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just really, really like what she's done, isn't it? Like she's moved on from TV to content creation,
learning new skills.
Who knows what else next?
Yeah, that's true. Like for me as well, I think I'll just keep doing this probably until I die. Because I love doing it. It's not like, okay, you know what, I've got this and then that's it for me. I've written books, that's it for me. It's not going to be like that, because I love what I do, and it's more than just a passion. It's just really going back to like what my mom said, making a difference, and you can never stop making a difference in a positive way, as long as, you stay true to yourself, as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you know that what you're doing is not just for yourself. It's not just so you'll feel good about yourself. It's to actually make an impact, create an impact into the world. Then, for me, I'll just keep going. Yeah.
Also, like you also wanted to open a restaurant, no?
I do. A restaurant,
a
farm.
There is a checklist of stuff. It's just like I think you want to come to a point where there's just not enough time to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's living, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's not just about your career. It's not about I cook for my kids every day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, okay, mostly every day. So like at least 4 days out of like a whole week.
Okay.
Does Shireen cook?
She does when she has to.
Okay.
But it's my strong suit, and also I always thought that it's something that I want to do.
Yeah.
Right. Kids have eaten like so many things. We're really not. Today was lasagna. Yesterday was not lasagna. Sorry. Well, yeah, it's kind of lasagna, but it was a vegetarian one. But tomato sauce is made from scratch, from tomatoes. Yesterday was chicken soup,
Ooh.
and some days it's, chicken cordon bleu, some days it's burgers,
Wow.
and sometimes it's just rice with, masala lemak.
Adopt me. The adoption part.
I have a question. They say kids are like brutally honest, right? So have your kids ever give you a scathing review of your food before?
Yeah, they have, but they don't have a choice, right?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately they don't.
I mean,
but,
you eat it.
You eat it or nothing.
But I mean, like today, I mean, like my eldest, he's a very, well, both are very expressive, but
Okay.
but my eldest was like, and he's like eating this sort of like lasagna that I made, and when he enjoys food, he really enjoys it, and for me, I think like those are great moments, and if you enjoy these, right, for me that's an apex, right? And imagine if I cook for them like nearly every other day, and every day he's enjoying it, every day is an apex.
That's really sweet. Yeah,
It's amazing.
You know what I mean? Like, it's simple stuff we make. Like I love to go to Ben's.
Okay.
And I love to go to the 50% part.
Okay,
and
yeah.
I stock load on all the 50% stuff.
Nice.
Right? All of it, because I know I can bang something out of that.
Well, you can turn it into gold.
Yeah. So like you get like there's like the other day we had like pisang emas.
Oh.
And pisang emas is not the best when it starts. But then what I do, we take it home, I peel it, I chuck it in the freezer, and every now and then when they're hankering for like ice cream, which is every day actually, so I shouldn't say every now and then, but take that food processor, frozen bananas, dollops of yogurt, blitz it up, and all the pectin inside the bananas make this really nice
Creamy texture.
ice cream, and they're, and thank you very much, Ben. And okay, so that's that, and then there's also we go out to the forest, we go to a stream, and then they're building like little dams, playing with the rocks, and for me this is again building core memories, but for me I feel like okay, like this is an apex for me.
Do you think if you didn't do that, if you didn't cook at home for your children, and have all these amazing time spent with them, amazing memories, do you think you might fall out of it because of the stress of your job, like having it's quite crazy, right? How many hours you do in a day?
Yeah, I don't cook as much as I ever did. The restaurant is really fueled by an amazing team.
Yeah.
And what I've been doing for the past 9 years is really setting up a system in which I am rendered almost not necessary for a
Are you sure?
for a day-to-day operation.
Okay.
Day-to-day operation. That's why I'm not very quick to receive these accolades. I receive on behalf of, but I will never say Michelin star chef or this or that. I'll never say that, simply because it takes so much more. Earlier on, I mentioned the people that are involved in the success of the restaurant. There's so many. There's just so many people that are involved in it. And it doesn't make sense for you to take that and say and then distill it into like just one person.
Yeah.
How can? And so because we've managed to come up with a system that works that way. Of course, the day-to-day hinks and hijinks. Both that personal growth and the professional growth grew in tandem. I created that system so that myself and people like me within my organization can spend time with their families. We're still only dinner in as much as possible. If you don't have to come in earlier, you shouldn't. But they still do. It's a poor reflection of your mental and emotional maturity if there are portions in your life that are lopsided. I don't mean that you should look for balance, because life is very impossible to balance. I don't believe in work-life balance because there is life and then there's work in it.
Right.
So
it's supposed to coincide.
Yeah. And I mean, I think life should include things like work, but it should also include other things as well, right? And if you're not able to find this sort of like centeredness, and I use the word centeredness, not balance. If you don't find that centeredness, something in this equation needs to be reworked and
Right.
relooked. There are points where you're going to have to work a little bit more, whether it's on a day-to-day basis, or a week-to-week basis, or a period in your life basis. There was a period in my life where I worked like nuts. There's a period in my life where I didn't. There's a period in my life where the restaurant was very, very central because you needed to get things going, right? But if it's perpetual, and if you calculate at what cost, and that cost to perpetuate this sort of aspect of your career is taking too much, then maybe you need to reevaluate that.
Yeah.
Ambition accomplishes great things.
Yeah.
But also, we must be very, very aware that there is a cost to it. And if we are aware there is a cost to it, and we know that this is the outcome of that cost, then that is what it is, and you're okay and comfortable with that, then that's what it is.
Actually, Anis, you asked the next question I was going to ask. Her. How do you, so we're in sync here. No. I was going to ask you the same question.
Okay.
How do you manage it when it gets too much?
Well, again, just like everything in my life, it's still I'm still learning. I remember I am someone who's very ambitious, and I never tell myself I can't do it. I'll always find a way to do it. And 2 years ago, I was very, very overwhelmed from work. So, I mean, my work is a bit different because I do a lot of client servicing. I enjoy the creative process, but sometimes you are limited to doing what you really want. You are limited to being creative, or really even showing or even adding the things that you love into your work, like what I do, right? Because there are people telling me this is what we want, so just stick to it. And then that kind of made me feel like, okay, you know what? In the end, I'm just a face, and I've struggled with that for a really long time. I went to a point where I just dressed down completely. I'm like, no. Because I don't like it. I don't like people talking about the way I look. I don't like people saying anything that has got to do with it, because I feel like I'm not taken seriously. So I went through a point where I got a bit like, I started getting anxiety attacks, and I had no idea that it was anxiety attack, because I feel like mentally I'm quite strong. I went through quite a bit growing up, and I feel like I know, like I am always good at identifying what troubles me, and then kind of like dissect it and then work on it. It's, I feel like, one of my personal strengths. But at that point of time, I didn't know that it was anxiety. I didn't know I was stressed even, because I'm just like doing it like every other day. I'm doing the same thing. But here I am just driving, and then all of a sudden I can't breathe. And I'm like, what is going on? I had to stop the car because I felt lightheaded from not being able to breathe. And what is going on? And then someone told me, when my sister said, I think you're having an anxiety attack. I'm like, from what? Life is fine. Everything on the surface, it looks fine. And I didn't realize that affected me so much, not being able to be creative, having other people just sort of dictate what I do and basically disrupt my creative process actually affected me. I went to see a shrink. I went to see a psychiatrist. She said, okay, why are you here? And then I just started crying. So I spent half an hour just crying because I don't even know why I'm there. I'm just like, I think I'm depressed. I think so, but I don't know what it is. But I went through depression before when my late brother passed away, but I knew that it was that caused the depression. So this time around, I'm like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. I'm not getting enough sleep. And I get easily triggered when someone says, Anis, you look so pretty today. I'm like, just like, don't look at me. And then she said, you need to really take a step back and blah, 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 this and that. And I'm like, oh, okay, words. My mom says this to me. It's not working. So after the session was done, I didn't drive because, I was so traumatized from not being able to breathe, blah, blah, blah. I took a Grab. So I was waiting for my Grab, and then there was like a Jaya Grocer where the building is at, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna go into Jaya Grocer because I love browsing, looking at things, reading labels on ingredients. So I went down and then just sort of like automatically, like I wasn't even thinking, I just started picking things up. And I went back home, called a few friends over, like, hey, do you want to hang out? And just started cooking. And that was the first time I cook. Like, I cook every day, right? I cook for work, I cook for my family. But first time in a long time that I just kind of like let my body do what it's like used to doing without thinking or, you know, without focusing so much. And after that, I felt so much better. So I decided like I needed to keep a few days to just do that because in the end, I love cooking. You know, when I was in high school, I cooked all the time. I'm grounded all the time because I'm a naughty teenager. So I spend a lot of my time cooking for my parents, for my family, and just doing that. That helped me. That helped me through, like, you know, high school breakups, fighting with friends, being grounded. That helped me go through all of that. So that's always been somewhat of a therapy for me, which I've forgotten, and it became like a job. And not just a job, like quite demanding, you know, because you just gotta, it's different, obviously, from what Darren does, you know. But you gotta make sure, you know, the recipes that you create is aligned with the brand, and everyone approves of it, and then people like it, and you gotta make sure it brings numbers, it gets reach. You gotta make sure. Sometimes your clients even say, like, what's the, you know, ROI? And you're like, how can I guarantee how many people would buy your product like I do? Like, I can just do my best. But these are the things that I go through. And at that point of time, it felt like it was so much. And I felt like I wasn't doing anything right. But I'm not getting enough sleep because I'm just constantly working. And I lost that joy of cooking. So after that session, and I cooked for my friends. And it was just like, it was a slider. Like, I made sliders. That was it.
Nice.
Like, basic. But it was so fulfilling and it was so relaxing because I was just doing it because I love doing it, and I was feeding people I love. So that felt like it was rewarding, and I started doing that a lot more. I still do it now. Sometimes I send him for food. Sometimes.
What have you eaten so far?
No, we had the biryani was the first round.
Oh, yes, I
she
remember.
sent rendang, and then she's got the the daging salai, masak lemak.
Thank you.
Send me an invitation next time.
I'll send some to you.
I'm kidding. But thanks for sharing on this. I mean, one of the things when I'm talking to people on the show and chefs on the show, I realized that the challenges you guys face is something I think even I or most people who are not working in the F&B industry are not privy to. We don't understand what kind of challenges you guys face because we're not in that situation, you know. So that's why I ask and I learn from you guys, and it's quite illuminating to learn from you guys the different types of challenges you face. Yeah. So, you know, we talked a little bit about professional and personal, and I want to talk a little bit about national and how the successes you guys have got affects us as our food culture and ourselves as a nation. And for all your efforts promoting our amazing food culture to the world, you two are, you know, you're our nation's culinary and cultural ambassadors. You represent us when you talk to other chefs or other people around the world, and they learn about Malaysia through you guys. Can you shed some insights and thoughts on the roles of chefs have as cultural ambassadors to Malaysia in relation to helping shape global perception of country's food culture?
Soft politics, isn't it? I mean, the French have been doing that for centuries.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
They are. The Spanish, cannot forget the Portuguese who basically kind of like wrote the book on it. Like the tepan, for example. No, not the tepan, the tempura.
Tempura, yes.
The tempura. I think that's always a role simply because it's not the role of the chef. It's ironic that the chef is the icon, but essentially it's always been about communion. It's not about the food. It's about the communion. It's when you get people together and they sit down and they share a meal, they're sharing an experience. And when there's an experience, there's an exchange. And this exchange is where the value is. The medium for that exchange is the food. And that food is where you're able to give insight into cultural practices, into the way people look at things. Shireen just got back from Japan in and one of the things that she just was really just kind of interested in was how much they slurp when they eat. When they eat, right? And down here, if anyone did that at the dining table, you see my eyes roll. I was like, good grief.
It's a big no-no. It's a big no-no.
Good grief, get a hold of yourself. And there are just these nuances that allow this cultural exchange to happen. So I don't think it's so much the chef. Although because the chef is having its moment right now. At this point, it's having its moment. 40 years ago, it was not the chef, it was the maitre d'. And before that, it was the establishment, the owner. Right? And if you look at through the restaurant history and the way the food and beverage industry has grown, this is just the chef is having its moment. At some point, it's maybe no longer going to be the chef. It's going to be the sommelier or water sommelier, or it's going to be the valet or the concierge or something, right? But the important part is the exchange that happens at the table. I remember seeing a video of the late Queen Elizabeth eating at various in her duty as the leader of the Commonwealth, eating at various places, right? I can't remember if it was Papua New Guinea or something like this, and they had this roast animal, which I think it was something like a capybara, which is like a large rodent.
Okay.
And you had to use hands. So I can't remember if it was her or it was Diana, Princess Diana. I can't remember, but it was just looking at that cultural exchange and just seeing them so uncomfortable in that situation, which was I thought was very entertaining. But you also see that that food still has a very relevant position in being an ambassador by itself. It doesn't really need a personality. The person, if there's a chef attached to it, then that becomes a personality. Chef one is a personality. And he's a very good one. For what he does, he's a very good one. He's able to stand. He's able to command a presence. He's able to command or direct travel of a conversation. But he's a personality. But the medium he uses is food. And in my experience so far is traveling and cooking in different restaurants around the region and around the world. What I do is I am a conduit to bring our ingredients to people who have no reference point to it. And then that begins the conversation, and then that begins the curiosity, and then that begins, what is Malaysia, and what is Kuala Lumpur, and oh my God, look at all the beaches that we have here, and look at that, you have orangutans and stuff like that. So that's how I see it.
I see.
But it's never a singular person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it similar for you, Anas?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm just, the recipes that I share, so some of the recipes that people are familiar with, it's just that they don't know how to do it. Like, I collaborate with some of the content creators from America and stuff, like Tasty, BuzzFeed Tasty, and another sandwich guy, Sandwiches
you did
of
one
History.
In Japan.
Yeah,
I remember.
Ikuto. Sandwiches of History, and I did like
cool guy, yeah.
Nasi. I love him. Nasi lemak inspired sandwich, which something that my mom used to make for us growing up. And it's just like, for me, I'm just sharing the recipes. I'm not really like educating people of Malaysian food. I mean, some of my shows are sort of like directed to that, but it's like what Darren said. It's not really. I'm basically just the medium. I'm not really, telling people, hey, come to Malaysia. This is, what we have. I'm just basically sharing what I also am learning in the process, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's that. And it's a collective effort, I would say, because I'm not the only one doing it. There's so many people. Like Khairul Aming did one with Gordon Ramsay. I'm not sure what he did, but I'm pretty sure it's Malaysian food. So,
And all the Malaysian chefs that are cooking staff meals in all the restaurants around the world. You know, they definitely do a nasi lemak, they definitely do a rendang. And, you know, I mean, just small stuff like that, right? I mean,
I'm sure those spark conversations. Oh, what is a nasi lemak, for example?
Well, I mean, and not only just spark conversation, but, you know, people have a curiosity. Have you tried explaining what Malaysian food is to a person who has no context?
It's very tough.
It's impossible.
It's very tough.
Because they need to understand the genetic makeup of our country. You know, the ethnicities, and within the ethnicities, the different cultural and traditional ranges. It's really difficult. I have difficulty explaining Malaysian food to visitors even while they are here.
Oh gosh.
You know, so they come and they see, why so colorful are you people? You know, especially if they come from a monoculture, right? It's like, why are you so colorful? And you're like, and then you see, and then they you know, there's Indian food and there's like Chinese food. Then like, how come you got so many types of Chinese food? And why do you have so many types of Indian food? What is an Indian Muslim food?
And it's so different, and so different to the Indian food in India.
Absolutely.
And you get people asking
China,
you,
like,
exactly, like, why is it like this?
What is going on here? And you'd have to explain that. And it's interesting because it has propensity to drive someone to a curiosity that, you know, they're just going down the rabbit hole. What's this? What's this? What's going on here? What's this?
Actually,
you know, and you end up with like them becoming champions for you for that culture as well.
So you guys have seen this unfold in front of you before,
Yeah, I mean, all the guest chefs that come down, you know, they cook at the restaurant. When we go over and we bring things like kulim, we were the first restaurant to bring that to a restaurant, and then after that, bring that everywhere. And we've just kind of like learned that this is the ambassador. This is the scent of Dewakan. It's a kulim, and if you don't know what a kulim is, it smells of roast garlic. So imagine your luggage smelling of roast garlic for about a week, and we take that everywhere, and people say, "What is this?
Right?
Just what the heck is this?" Because if from an ingredient standpoint, so many ingredients are universal. They either come from this sort of like the Chinese subcontinent, the Indian subcontinent, the Japanese, Korean subcontinent, and then the European, and then the African one, right? And then of course there's the rainforest or at least the South American ones. And then there's us. Our cuisine is defined by an ingredient. The entire region, our cuisine is defined by an ingredient that's not native to us, which is the chili. So someone goes to Malaysia, Thailand, and says, "Oh yeah, I know the food. It's sure going to be spicy." And then you bring the kulim, and then they smell, what is going on here? You know, and this sort of revelation, it shakes someone's perception of what your country is, and then they're now like, oh my gosh, I had close contact with a jungle fruit. And that's really one of the biggest satisfactions that we take when we bring these ingredients overseas.
On that note that was actually my last question, guys, but I actually have something I prepared secretly for you guys called the lightning round. It's just 7 true or false facts that I would like to ask you about actually where we are today in this setting. About Peranakan. So the rules of the game is very simple. You know, you got 10 seconds to answer true or false to 7 fun facts that I've prepared. And my team will just record the answer and let us know who wins at the end of the game.
Oh no.
The hyper competitive.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I didn't study for this.
No, it's okay.
You know I'm not Peranakan, right?
Yeah, no. So neither. I think all of us are neither Peranakan, but you know.
Yeah,
we're gonna learn something today.
Quarter,
Oh, at least you have a quarter.
No, not quarter Peranakan, quarter Indian.
Okay. Don't worry.
I got half Indian. That doesn't count for this. Like, it's still Peranakan.
I know nothing.
I promise it's
so like what kind of Peranakan though? We have to be specific because there are like 7 of them.
Yes. Okay. So let's start with the first one. So Malaysia and Indonesia have a rich Peranakan. Wow, that was fast. Okay. Count as a real answer, yeah? No, I'm kidding. Okay, so Malaysia and Indonesia have a rich Peranakan legacy. The term Peranakan essentially means locally born and refers to communities formed of mixed ethnic ancestry.
Okay.
Our country is home to at least 9 different Peranakan communities, all spread throughout the nation. True or false?
I say true.
True. Darren.
If it's 9. Yeah. False, maybe. I think it's 7, I think.
Okay, the answer is true. According to Dr. David Neo, a cultural researcher and senior lecturer with the College of Creative Arts at UiTM Malaysia, there are the Samsam Peranakan in Perlis, the Arab descendants in Kedah, Perak, and Johor, the Jawi Peranakan and Straits Chinese in Penang, the Peranakan Sink in Perak, the Baba Nyonya, Chetty, and Kristang in Malacca, as well as the Peranakan Chinese of Kelantan and Terengganu.
Yes.
All right. Next one. A traditional Peranakan wedding is a 12-day affair usually carried out in the bride's house, where ceremonies like the lap chai, exchange of gifts, and Teoh Tao, coming of age, are carried out. One of these ceremonies is called Chia Sia, unique because friends and guests of the bridegroom would gather in the room and tease the bride with the hope of inducing laughter from her. If the bride does break out into fits of laughter, the unfortunate groom would have to treat all the guests to dinner. True or false?
It's so absurd. It might be true.
I think it's true as well because I think my friend did it recently.
Really?
Well, it's true. Yeah, it's true.
And the dad had to carry the mom on her breast and stuff like that.
It's very elaborate, right?
It's
It's very elaborate. Yeah, they have like a few ceremonies.
Like,
this is only the third ceremony that takes place, Yeah. Okay.
Just get married. Really? Is it really that worth it? I'm not sure.
It's just 12 days.
Well, 12 days only. Yeah, exactly. All right. Ayam buah keluak is perhaps one of the most well-known Peranakan dishes. It was considered a luxury in Portuguese Eurasian homes and was only reserved on birthdays. True or false?
Ooh, man.
I also don't know.
Take a guess.
I'd say false.
Yeah.
False?
I think they have it all the time, no?
Maybe they have it for Christmas. I don't know. It's also
False too?
False.
Come
Okay.
birthdays.
You guys are correct. You're right. So cooking the dish is laboriously intensive.
Yes.
Normally a 5-day preparation process. But it is reserved for significant occasions, but just not limited to birthdays.
Yeah.
You know, we're just trying to tembak all of this, right?
Yeah, you can. But if you know, you can answer them
some
too.
logic in it.
Maybe you can win by, tembaking. I don't know.
That's exactly how we pass SPM.
Maybe it's your
right?
lucky day.
That's true.
You look at the most logical answer and you tembak.
And if you can't, you just eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
So there you go, SPM entrance this year, just tembak, it might be half correct.
You don't eeny, meeny, miny, mo. That's not what you do. You look at the pattern. And you say,
I'm like, cannot be
all B's in a row.
Cannot be, exactly. Even if you're confident, you will
Cannot be all
question
B's in a
yourself.
row. It has to be a C after.
Exactly. Like, it has to have like a nice pattern. Sometimes it's a zigzag, sometimes it's a
Zigzag.
cross.
I'm very sure the viewers know what we're talking
Well,
about.
this is a 50-50, guys. Come on, not that high, right? Okay, next one. Peranakan cultures only accepts patrilocal marriage, where the married couple moves into the male's house, meaning the Nyonya, female, moves into the Baba's, male's, house to stay. True or false?
I don't know. I'm not very confident. Sounds sexist. I'm not sure.
So true or false?
It's like,
yes.
You have to marry,
So Darren-
you have to
Darren
move
says false.
into.
Like if you're a guy who marries into you can't be called a baba. I think it's matriarchal.
I don't know. I would say it's false.
False?
As well.
Okay, false. You're right.
Okay.
It is false.
Ooh.
Matrilocal marriage is accepted despite being uncommon in Asian cultures, as with most heads of Peranakan households are usually females.
Except for the Minangkabau. That's where it's not patriarchal. Lah.
Yeah.
Minangkabau and Malayali is also not patriarchal.
Next one. Nyonya cooking is largely matriarchal, with each family's closely guarded recipes passed down orally from generation to generation as a sign of trust and coming of age. True or false?
Oh, really?
I have a lot to say about
Without
that one,
recipes,
No, I mean, how? I mean, possibly they also show like, okay,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
how you make it.
So they don't have it in
Remember
grams,
this,
they just tell you what's in it and then you write down and figure it out yourself and watch them.
Yeah, I think so because
Are you saying
that's
that it's matriarchal and it's passed down?
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah,
True or false?
I think so because that's
think it's
how
true.
in my family that's how we pass down the recipes. Yeah.
Well, it is true. You guys are doing pretty good.
Okay.
People
not
don't
bad.
know much about
Not
Peranakan
bad.
culture. Yeah.
You're very good at tembaking.
Okay, two more. Okay, there are many superstitions involved when making Nyonya Kueh. For Angku Kueh, the famous red tortoiseshell kueh, no one is supposed to see the person making them, and there should not be any unnecessary questions or comments present during the making of the kueh. An entire batch can be discarded if the baker does not adhere to these superstitions. To ward off negative effects of these superstitions, bakers use a combination of rice, tea leaves, and salt kept around the kitchen. True or false?
But you don't bake ang ku kueh, right?
Yeah. You steam.
And you make.
Oh, okay.
I guess.
I would say false. I don't know.
Well, it's actually false.
Okay.
Not because it's not real, but because I switched the kueh up. It's actually a kueh bakul. It's kiniam cow. All right. Last one. Peranakan cuisine has the distinction of being the world's first fusion food, dating back to about 600 years ago. True or false?
True.
He's shaking his head.
False. There's no such thing.
Well, according to the UNESCO, Macanese cuisine is recognized as the world's first fusion food.
Yeah.
It beat Peranakan about 50 years.
And even that is debatable.
Oh, well.
How would you cannot. You
Yeah.
cannot. If you've had travel lines crossing
Right.
That's true.
pre every one of these civilizations,
That's
right?
true.
How would you say that something is fusion or not?
That's true.
Right.
You have
Well,
the Silk Route. You've had Nubian civilizations.
Yeah.
How do you say from the Persians to the Africans? You cannot.
Yeah.
I call out that question.
well, okay. Let's let the team tally up first. I actually have a bonus tiebreaker. Let's see who won.
Oh no! I thought we weren't keeping score.
We are keeping score.
I don't like this.
So Darren got 5 out of 7.
Wow. Wow. Anis, there you
Damn,
go.
the last question. Could have gotten all 7.
Well, on that note, we're going to bring the episode to an end. Thank you, Darren and Anis. It's been
you.
truly a pleasure speaking to you today and joining me on the set. I'm Tian, and thanks for tuning in to Chew on This, where I'll always be bringing you on the...